Welcome back to Jack of All Trades, a guidance channel for young men. Today we're going to talk about being intentional and how important that is in all aspects of your life. In all the videos that we've put out, nothing happens if you're not intentional with it. And so really this ties into every single other video that has been made on this channel or that will be made on this channel. If you're not living with deliberate intention, you are winging it. And what that really means is if you're not driving your life, if you're not living with that intention, if you're not guiding where your life goes, no one else is going to do it for you, and it's just not going to happen. You are just letting life happen to you. And you're going to turn around in 10 years and realize that things are just happening. Life is just happening to me. I'm not driving where I want to go. And being deliberate and living with intention, what that really means is that you get to choose how where your life goes. You get to choose. You get to decide how you're going to improve yourself, and you get to decide the kind of person you want to be. There's so many things in life that you need to work on, and none of it's going to happen without you being intentional. And maybe onesies, twosies might happen, but they're not going to all come together. They're not going to come together with any intentional goal. So if you're not driving your life, no one's going to do it for you. And that should be motivation enough right there to realize, all right, I got to figure out where I'm going and how I'm going to get there. And then you execute that plan. You don't climb mountains without a team. You don't climb mountains without being fit. You don't climb mountains without being prepared. And you don't climb mountains without balancing the risks and rewards. And you never climb a mountain by accident. It has to be intentional. And why I like that quote is, no matter what you're doing in life, it's not going to happen on accident. It has to be intentional. There's so many things. If you want to do well in life, can you fall into a couple things? Sure. But if you don't have a plan, if you don't have a roadmap for where you want to go and why you want to get there and a way to get there, it's not going to happen. Very few people become extremely successful or even honestly become very well-read or even really good people without intentionally driving towards that goal. And if you're not intentionally driving towards it, it's not going to happen. And that's, again, why I like this quote so much is none of these things happen without being intentional. You don't climb mountains without a team. Well, you don't just get a team by accident. You don't just fall into, oh, look, I have a team. You have to go out and get that team. You don't climb mountains without being fit. You don't get fit on accident either. You don't just like, oh, look, I happen to be really fit. Nope. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of dedication. It takes a lot of drive. It takes you being intentional, saying, I am going to be a fit person. I'm going to get fit for this goal, or I'm going to get fit just because I want to take care of myself. You don't climb mountains without being prepared and without balancing the risks and rewards. It's the same thing. None of this happens on its own. These are things that you need to intentionally make happen. And why I bring this up is if you think about any of the other videos on this, controlling your emotions, taking personal responsibility, choosing good friends, all those types of videos, those things take deliberate, intentional action for you to do it. And for you to do it more than once, for you to do it consistently. If you want to consistently choose good friends, or you want to consistently have good friends, then you need to be intentional with that. You need to be intentional with who you choose to be a friend with, and you need to be intentional about staying in touch with those friends and building those friendships and those close bonds. And so all of this is to say, whatever goal it is that you have in life, figure out what that is. Figure out where you want to go. And it doesn't matter how old you are. I'm 36. I have a ton of goals in life. And I'm constantly trying to roadmap myself and figure out, how do I get from here to there? How do I make this channel more successful? How do I get better at this? How am I a better father, a better husband, a better employee, a better officer in the military? All that stuff. It doesn't just happen. It takes deliberate action. And if you're not being intentional with all those things, again, life is just going to happen to you. And you're going to turn around and realize, man, I could have done so much better. I could have been so much better. Intentional living is the art of making our own choices before others' choices make us. And what that's really saying to me is, if you're not intentional with what you're doing, well, other people will be. And you're just going to get caught up in what they want to happen. You're going to get caught up in somebody else's life. You're going to get caught up in all these other people who have goals and have ways to get there. And you're just drifting along. So figure out how you're going to get from A to B. Be intentional with what you do and why you do it. And as you're doing things, think about, hey, is this pushing me towards that goal? Is this helping me in any way? Is this helping me get from A to B? And if it's not, then maybe you need to reevaluate what you're doing. Intentional days create a life on purpose. And that's one of my favorite quotes in this whole video Intentional days create a life on purpose. And like for me, I want a life on purpose. I want to plan things out. And life is not always going to go according to that plan. That's a fact. That's something you can count on. But if I'm intentional with my days and if I'm intentional towards driving a goal, I will either reach that goal or I will get really close to that goal. Maybe I'll exceed that goal. Maybe as I approach that goal, there'll be something else closer and I realize, oh, I want to do that more, and I can kind of reevaluate. And you should always kind of reevaluate what you're doing and where you're going and how you're getting there. But you need to be intentional. Be intentional, have intentional days, be intentional in the small things, and that will build towards those big things as well. And you need to be intentional with these things. And we're talking about friends, family, fitness, self-improvement, kids, mortgage, bills, work, email, starting a business, playing sports, hobbies, cleaning, donating your time, donating money to charity, and on and on and on. That's just a really short list that I wrote down just a couple minutes before the video, and there's so many other things that go into it. How are you going to keep track of all those things? How are you going to work on all those things if you're not intentional? And another aspect of this that I like to think about is how am I different from last year? How did I improve? Am I a better person than I was last year? Have I progressed towards my life goals or my goals for this year, my goals for the next couple years? Have I moved my family in the right direction? Am I doing better at work? All these things. You should take time to sit and look back and think, is what I'm doing working? And if it is, keep doing it. Figure out how to improve it. And if it's not, then be intentional about improving what you're doing. Find a better way. Reevaluate what you're doing and where you're trying to get and how to get there, and start working on it. But if you never sit down and reevaluate and look back and say, am I better now? Am I better off now than I was a year ago or a couple years ago or even 6 months ago? You should take that time to sit and think. For me, I like to work out, and so I'm kind of constantly looking back at pictures and stuff like that, and hey, am I progressing? If I look the exact same now as I did a year ago, I'm probably doing something wrong and I need to reevaluate that. And that has happened to me plenty of times, and I've realized, all right, I've settled in a little bit. I haven't been as intentional as I should be. I need to pick up the pace, or I need to work a little bit harder. And so that's a good aspect to this. And again, like everything else in life, that does not happen without you being intentional. We create our future self by default or design. Another really, really good quote there. So you are going to create your future self. You've created who you are now, and you are, and this is one of my favorite sayings, is that you are the sum of your decisions. You're the sum of your life decisions. You're the sum of your choices. You make good decisions most of the time, you'll probably have a pretty good life. You make a lot of bad decisions, and that's who you are, that those stack up, and eventually they're going to catch up with you. So we do create our future self by default, which means by accident, and that is not being intentional. That's turning around 10 years from now and being like, oh man, 10 years have gone by. What have I done? What have I done with my life? Hey, I'm 20 now. Oh, I'm really excited about it. Well, now I'm 30. Looking back, what did I do in my 20s? Did I accomplish anything? Am I moving forwards towards a goal? That's default. By design is being intentional. Is saying, okay, at this point, next year, here's where I want to be. Here's how I think I can get there. This is what I need to work on. And every day I'm going to do these little things. And I'm going to check back on it. Progress is not achieved by luck or accident, but by working on yourself daily. And that quote probably doesn't need a lot of extra explanation. It's kind of self-explanatory. But progress is not achieved by luck or accident. It's not going to happen. Very few people are successful on accident. And I would say that number is extremely small. And even by luck. It's by working on yourself daily. It's by hard work. Now, are there people who work really hard and also get lucky? Absolutely. But it takes that work. No one makes it to be a professional athlete by accident. Oh, I just kind of fell into it. That doesn't happen. Okay, no one makes it to be a successful businessman or a successful father or a successful employee or, a successful husband. That's not going to happen by accident. You have to work on those things because a lot of that stuff, some of it will come natural to you, but a lot of it won't, and you'll have to work on those things. As a leader, you must consistently drive effective communication. Meetings must be deliberate and intentional. Your organizational rhythm should value purpose over habit and effectiveness over efficiency. I thought this was a pretty good leadership quote to throw into the video. Take a minute to maybe even pause the video and reread that and kind of think about what it means. What I like about this is the talk about meetings, how they have to be deliberate and intentional. And I kind of see that as a really good analogy for life. So I've been in plenty of work meetings where we walk in with no express goal, and we come into a meeting and somebody presents something and then people ask questions and we all kind of look around the room. It takes a lot longer than it should have. There's sidebar conversations. Everyone's somewhat distracted. And then we all say, okay, well, yeah, it was good. And then everybody gets up and leaves. What was accomplished in that meeting? I think nothing, honestly. No decisions were made. No one, maybe we know how people feel coming out of the meeting, but what was the point of the meeting? And did we attain that goal? Were we successful? I honestly, most of the time when meetings like that happen, I couldn't answer that question. And what I have learned to do and what I've seen from really good leaders is when they go into a meeting, they are very intentional with why are we here? This is the goal. This is my point, and this is what I hope to achieve by the end of this meeting. And it sets everyone on focus. And we can walk out of that meeting knowing we were successful or we were unsuccessful for whatever reason. And hey, here's what we have to do to get to being successful. But if you walk into a meeting and you're deliberate and intentional, you're not going to walk out wondering, what was that meeting even for? Did we accomplish anything? You're going to walk out of that meeting with a decision. You're going to walk out of that meeting knowing, okay, we were successful. We met our goal. We met the stated goal of that meeting. And it gives everyone focus. And that's a good analogy for life. If you hold your life like those meetings where people come in and just, hey, here's this PowerPoint, let's talk about it. Okay, sidebar conversations, and yep, that's it. All right, and everybody gets up and leaves. What have we accomplished? What have you accomplished at that point? It's kind of a waste of time. And so if you're not intentional, you are wasting your time. You really are. You're wasting your time because you could be and do so much better. Now, if you're deliberate and intentional, if you're those meetings where we walk in and we say, this is the goal, this is how we want to get there, we're going to brief you on it, and by the end of it, we want a decision from you guys telling us that this is that you agree or disagree so we can move forward. And you set that meeting and you focus. If you live your life like that, and if you're focused and intentional and deliberate with what you do, you will accomplish so much more, and in the end, you will be happier. Therefore, encourage one another and build one another up, just as you are doing. And I like that it doesn't expressly talk about being intentional, but you're not going to build one another up. You're not going to encourage one another without being intentional. That's something that has to happen for you to continue to do that. So I like that idea of kind of community, of building each other up, your friends and your family and maybe your coworkers or people you go to school with, and that's something that you could be intentional with. Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise but as wise, making the most of every opportunity because the days are evil. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is. And the beginning, be very careful then how you live. Don't be unwise, be wise. Make the most of every opportunity. So be intentional. Be intentional. Guide your life. Figure out what you want. Set some goals and set some plans on how to get there, and then work towards those. Intentionally work towards those goals. And it doesn't have to be start a business. It could literally be, hey, I want to make a couple more friends, and I want to really tighten up my group of friends, or I want to get better at this skill. I want to get better at baking, or I want to get in better shape. Or it doesn't have to be this big grand thing. And you can have a bunch of them, and then you pick some ones that are realistic and things that you can achieve, and set a goal. Hey, by 6 months, I want to be able to run 4 miles without having to stop. Or in 6 months, I'd like to have 2 or 3 more friends that I hang out with on a semi-regular basis, that we know each other and we building tighter bonds, those types of things. So it doesn't always have to be, a work or school or business related goal. Obviously they can be. It can be financial goals, but you can also be for really just about anything. And if you're intentional with it, you can drive towards those things and make it happen. Thanks as always for listening. This won't be the only video on being intentional. This was almost more of just kind of an introduction to the idea and to get you thinking about how to be intentional for the goals that you have in life. Well, there'll be more on this. There's also, the weather's getting better where I live, so we'll probably start to put out some more basketball videos. And if you have any feedback on those, I'd love to hear it. But thanks for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe.